Jai Shri Krishna, Sarvesham Namaskaraha, Suprabhatam.
Namaskara.
Suprabhatam.
Patami Sanskritam Nityam.
Patami Sanskritam Nityam.
Vadami Sanskritam Sada.
Vadami Sanskritam Sada.
Dhyayami Sanskritam Samyak.
Dhyayami Sanskritam Samyak.
Vande Samskrita Mataram.
Vande Samskrita Mataram.
Samskritasya prasaraya.
Samskritasya prasaraya.
Naijam sarvam dadamyaham.
Naijam sarvam dadamyaham.
Samskritasya sada bhakto.
Samskritasya sada bhakto.
Vande Samskrita Mataram.
Vande
Samskrita Mataram.
Samskritasya krite jivan.
Samskritasya krite jivan.
Samskritasya krite yajan.
Samskritasya krite yajan.
Atmanamahutam vande.
Atmanamahutam manye.
Vande Samskrita Mataram.
Vande Samskrita Mataram.
Vande Samskrita Mataram.
Vande Samskrita Mataram.
Uttamam. Adya Pravesha Pustakasya Pratama Patam Vayam Samapitum Kinchit Prayatnam Kurmaha.
Pravesha Parichaya.
Parichaya Pustakasya Pratama Patasya Samapanam Kartum Kinchit Prayatnam Kurmaha. Bahu Vishayan Vayam Tataha Kritavantaha. Ataha Edyad Tyaktam Tat Sarvam Adya Vayam Samapayitum Kinchit Prayatnam Kurmaha. पुनश्च नीना भगिनी उक्तवती तत्र किमर्थं प्रश्नाः आसन् अन्वयरचना मध्ये इति पृष्टवती तदपि किञ्चित् स्वीकृत्य तस्मिन् विषये अपि किञ्चित् चर्चां कुर्मः अवगन्तुं प्रयत्नं कुर्मः ललिता भगिनी पृष्टवती तत्र पुनः अन्वयरचना पदच्छेदः मध्ये एव तस्याः प्रश्नः अपि आसीत् अतः किञ्चित् पुनः स्मरणरूपेण वयं कर्तुं प्रयत्नं कुर्मः अस्तु अग्रे गच्छामः इदानीं परिचय पुस्तके पश्यामः चेत् सन्धिः इति एकः विषयः 21 तमे पुटे अस्ति 21st पेज नंबर 21 तमे पुटे सन्धिः इति एकः विषयः तत्र उक्तः अस्ति so what do we mean by sandhi when two words come together and there is a natural tendency for them to join, it becomes a sandhi. So for example, they have given the first sentence here. If you look at it, atraiva aham pustakam stapitavan. Atraiva. So atraiva, when you look at it, what happens? Atraiva, 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 atra eva, you know, atra eva, when you constantly say, automatically there is a tendency for these words to become one, right? Atraiva, 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 it becomes atraiva. So automatically they tend to join. Therefore, atraiva, we will know, is actually made up of atra eva. Atra eva, atra eva. Try to tell it, you know, a few times fast. Atraiva, 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 atraiva. So the natural way our voice reacts is actually captured very, very beautifully, and those kind of words combine together. And when two such words join together, we call it a sandhi. So two words close together. So here atraiva is actually atra plus eva. Aham bhavantam kutrapi drishtavan. kutra api.
Api. Kutra.
Kutrapi. Kutra plus api becomes kutrapi. Similarly, kutrapi, 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 kutrapi will become kutrapi. That is a natural tendency. Aham katu vachanam nechami. Na ichami. Nechami. Na ichami. Adyatanaha karyakramaha atyuttamaha asit. Ati uttamaha. Atyuttamaha. Ati uttamaha. Atyuttamaha. Iti abhavat. Antimam pashyamah chet tau sahodarau Rama Lakshmanaviva staha. Rama Lakshmanau iva staha. Rama Lakshmanau, because it is two, right? Ramaha Lakshmanaha cha. Rama Lakshmanau iva staha. That is why they are using staha, because it is two of them together you are using it. Dvivachanam. Astu. Rama Lakshmanau iva staha. So in all these things, there are two words that are joining together in order to form a new word. Therefore, there is a sandhi which is happening there. So in fact, when we speak about sandhi, it will be very interesting to note that, usually in our daily ritual, we do a sandhya worship, right? We offer our salutations to sun god. When does that happen? That happens during the sandhya kala. Sunset. What do we mean by sandhi there? It will actually be 3 times a day, if you notice. One is when the night meets the morning. So that will be the prata sandhya, early morning. When these two meet, the sandhi kala will be the prata sandhi. And then the day meets the afternoon time. That will be the madhyana sandhi. When the actual day is going to its peak, and it's at the peak, it's going to meet the remaining rest of the day. That will be the madhyana sandhi. And the evening will be when the sunset is happening. The dawn actually is meeting the night time. That will be the sayam sandhi, when the sandhya kala. So the meeting of two things, the prata sandhi, sayam sandhi. That is how we actually call the sandhi time, which means two things are coming together, meeting. That is the sandhya kala. That's when we offer our worship to sun god. It's a beautiful thing for us to remember. So sandhi is when these two words actually meet, they combine together to give us a different kind of a rupa. So what happens here is we have many varieties and options in that which we need to understand. So kutrapi, we said it is kutra plus api. So if you look at kutra, what is the last alphabet of kutra?
Tra.
Tra is again what?
Ta and
Ra plus
It plus ra. It plus ra. So ra is again ir plus a, right? So the antima akshara is a. Kutra, itra plus a becomes kutra, right? Similarly, api is made of what? A plus p.
plus p.
Therefore, this is actually a combination of a plus a, which becomes a. A plus a becomes a. That's why it's not kutrapi, it is kutrapi. Kutrapi. So here it is tra, itra plus a. Then api is also a plus p. Therefore, it becomes kutrapi. Is this concept clear? Okay. Similarly, nechami, na plus ichami. Na is again in plus a. Ichami is e plus chami. So a plus e becomes a. Therefore, it is nechami. Nechami. Na plus a plus e becomes a. Atyuttamam is ati plus uttamam. So ati, the last alphabet is ti. What is ti? It is it plus e. It plus e is ti. Uttamam, the starting alphabet is u. Therefore, e plus u becomes u. E plus u becomes u. Therefore, it is atyuttamam. Atyuttamam. Rama Lakshmana Viva. Rama Lakshmanau plus Iva becomes Rama Lakshmana Viva. So what is the Antima Aksharam? Oh God. What is the Antima Aksharam here?
Au plus.
Au plus E.
E.
Iva E.
So, Au plus E. So the rule here is Au plus E becomes Avi. We will learn more of how these rules are. There are many, many such rules. But for now, for you to understand, it is Au plus E gives you Avi. Okay. Now, all these things, if you notice from the earlier one and this, we have learned about the vowels, right? A, I, E. All these are called as Swara Aksharas, just for you to recollect. All the consonants are called as
Vyanjana.
Vyanjana Aksharas. Okay. So we have learned Swara Aksharas, we've learned Vyanjana Aksharas. So when the Sandhis are joining together, depending on whether the Swara Aksharas are joining together or Vyanjana Aksharas are joining together or the combination of joining together, or are you having Visarga, you know, the two dots that we learned. Are you having Visargas? The Sandhis are categorized into different kind of varieties. So the Swaraksharas joining together is called as a Swara Sandhi.
Parasandhi.
When the Vyanjana Aksharas join together, it's called as Vyanjana Sandhi. When the Visarga happens to take a role, it's called as Visarga Sandhi. Okay. Inside Swara Sandhi itself, you have 6 categories. So we will be going into details of every category. In fact, in Parichaya, I think we are working only on Swara Sandhis.
Parasandhi.
Yeah.
So we will go into the details of how these Sandhis make a difference. And depending on which Sandhi, the Rupas will actually change, the rules will actually be implemented. We will be going into details of that, right? So as of now, it is important for us to know that when 2 aksharas, which are close together, join together, it can create a new word, which is a Sandhi. And we will be working on Swara Sandhi, which means 2 vowels, the end of 2 vowels joining together, creating new words will be our current focus. Is this clear? So that is where we are here. So here, if you notice in the examples that we've seen, all these are actually Swara Sandhi. A plus A, it is a Swarakshara. A plus E is a Swarakshara. E plus U, it's a Swarakshara. So we are working only on the Swaraksharas at this point of time. Spashtam asti va? Spashtam? Samyak.
Astu.
Uttamam. Atra Swarasandhi madhye षड् विषयाः भविष्यति, अग्रे एव पठामः. सवर्ण दीर्घ सन्धिः, गुणसन्धिः, वृद्धिसन्धिः, यण् सन्धिः, यान्तवान्तादेश सन्धिः, पूर्वरूप सन्धिः इति षड् विषयाः भविष्यति. अग्रे पठामः. प्रत्येकविषयं स्वीकृत्य वयम् अग्रे पठामः. Okay. So in Sanskritam, it is a very interesting thing where everywhere else we go, we only have singular and plural. Okay. Samskrita Bhasha is very, very unique because we have the concept of dual in it. Ekavachanam, Dvivachanam, Bahuvachanam iti Rupatrayam Samskrite bhavati. बहु जनाः सामान्यं पृच्छन्ति खलु किमर्थम् एतादृशम् अस्ति संस्कृते. Everything else is having singular or plural, but we seem to have like dual, which is very, very unique to Samskrita Bhasha. Why dual? Because a lot of our concepts, especially when we go into a lot of tattva vicharas, when we go into philosophical angles of it, when we go into explaining some of the fundamental concepts, starting from how our universal creation is described in Sanskritam, we will start explaining it as the Prithvi is one part of it, and the Purusha is the other part of it. Purusha Prithvi, this is the birth of the entire, creation itself. Starting from that, we will be looking at a lot of dual things that happens. The moment we say Sukham, automatically the concept of Dukkham will come. Labha, you get profit. Instantly the concept of loss will come. You speak of victory, automatically, losing will come. So these kind of couplets are very, very, fundamental to understanding a lot of concepts which come in traditionally. So for all these pairs to be grouped, an entire classification itself was created. So traditionally, these were represented using the Dvivachana Rupa. So the Purusha Prakriti will be a very, very fundamental thing. If you go into the Nyaya Shastra, Mimamsa, all these kind of classifications will have a huge, usage of the Rupa itself. So, Dvivachana Rupa. So, in fact, Krishna uses it, very, very elaborately in Bhagavad Gita. Sukham va, yati va, dukkham, labha, labho, jaya, jayo. He actually keeps explaining the dualities, and he says, never get engrossed in these dualities, come out of it if you want to understand a lot of things. All right. So here we are having a glimpse of what are some of the dual things which are mentioned. So some examples of the famous duals are given. I think it is there in your book
22
on page 22. On page 22, yes. So Ratri, Diva. So when there is a night, automatically we have a day. So Ratri, Diva, this is considered as a pair. Swarga, automatically we speak of Naraga. Swarga, Naraga. Punyam, Papam. So this Punya Papa concept is very unique to Sanatana Dharma. You don't see that in, many of the other religions we can think of. Punya Papa is like, the consequence or the karma theory is very, very unique to Sanatana Dharma. Did something get turned on now? Like, are you seeing my screen only?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay, it just gave me a message, so I was wondering. Okay, so Punya Pava. Sukham.
I just joined the beginning.
Astu. Sukham, Dukkam.
Dukkam.
Dharma, Adharma. Okay. So what is Dharma, Dharma? Any idea? Dharma, Dharma. What is Dharma, Dharma?
Right and wrong. Right deeds and wrong deeds.
No, Dharma is totally like, depends on the person's perspective towards life.
No, it is interesting for us to understand these also.
What you ought to do.
Righteousness.
Dharma is what you ought to do.
Righteousness is close to it. Okay,
Yeah,
what you ought to
righteousness.
do.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try to.
Whatever is not there in the Shastras and you do that, or whatever against your conscience you do something, that is adharma.
Okay, that is one way of looking at it. What is mentioned in the Shastras, what is not mentioned in the Shastras. Having said that, that can also be understood as Yama and Niyama. In Patanjali Sutra, we have concept of Yama and Niyama, the do's and don'ts, all those are mentioned there. But Dharma and Adharma is a layer above that. It is not just, to do, not to do, but it's a layer which supersedes the Yama Niyama layer also. So, I mean, these are not part of your parichaya, but I know all of you usually like to understand a little more detail. So let's just understand what we mean by the concept of dharma. It is fundamental concept which makes a difference between what we've been believing traditionally and what is the mindset of the current thinking process. So if we think of dharma, okay, let us just understand from natural things. Water is there. What is the nature of water? It flows from a higher level
to a lower area.
To a lower level. Water default will flow from a higher level to a lower level. Okay. Water, if we heat it up, after some time, what will happen?
It evaporates.
it will become room temperature, it will become normal, it will become cold. If you keep it in the freezer, you take it out, after some time, what happens?
Ice.
The ice, if you take it out of the freezer, keep it outside for a
gets
while,
into hot
Condensation.
water.
it will come back to normal room temperature. So from these, what do we understand about water? What is the natural tendency of the water? Water will flow from a higher level to a lower level. Okay, so it will always flow that way only. And irrespective of whether we heat it or cool it or whatever, left to itself, it will come back to its room temperature. Is that right? These are the default traits of water. So the Swadharma of Jala is Uparistat Adaha Agachati. Shitalam eva Swabhavaha, Swadharmaha of Jala. You understand this? So the dharma of water is flowing from higher to lower level and retaining its shaityam, retaining its coolness, whether it is heated or whether it is frozen, it will come back to it, left to itself. Okay. But if you look at Agni, if you look at fire, what is the default nature of fire? Will it go from higher level to a lower level? It's the other way. Irrespective of gravity, fire always goes up. And it is always hot. Whatever you do to fire, fire will always remain hot. It will give light, right? So these are very, very different traits compared to water. So what is the Swadharma of fire? Is to go from bottom to up, is to create heat around. So everything by nature has a Swabhava, something which is very, very individualistic.
Natural to it.
Natural trait. By default,
Swabhavic.
left to itself, that is the way it will be. That is the Swadharma. You know, the Swadharma of water is to flow from high to low. The Swadharma of fire is to heat it up or go from bottom to up, these kind of things. So everything which is created by nature has its own such tendencies, such swabhavas, such swadharmas. So when we align ourselves to the swadharma, there are certain things that we automatically do. So based on those, a lot of groupings are done. You know, these are the swadharmas, these are the... So that was the natural way how even humans were categorized into 4 things. You know, if a person's swabhava was to, you know, fight for the right cause, they were the warriors. You know, by their nature, they could fight. They were the warriors. If people had one urge to, you know, go into philosophy, understanding Brahman, what is the thing which was not told in other things, they were categorized as Brahmins. If people had the tendency to go and, you know, work for others, if somebody was hurt, they could not tolerate it, they wanted to go and do some help, they were categorized as Shudras. If people had a tendency to make money, profit, you know, go trade, do agriculture, protect cows, they were classified as Vaishyas. These were the natural tendencies which were grouped together. And that was the 4 categories which we said, which was called as Swadharma, Varnashrama Dharma, Swadharma. So that was the kind of grouping that was done. Today, of course, these words are itself abused, but we have to know what it originally meant, right? So these were the Swadharmas. Now, there were a lot of rules which were mentioned on top of this, so that one's Swadharma did not affect another Swadharma. It is like the traffic light, you know, the rules that are there. When you're standing in a signal, of course, you can keep going. But when you go, it should not affect the person who comes in the opposite direction or who turns on that side. So some rules were established so that one's Swadharma does not affect another person's Swadharma. And together, we all could do a lot of great things. So that is when the Yuga Dharma, the Kala Dharma, the Kshetra Dharma, all these were incorporated so that we could have a holistic picture. So the Yama, Niyama, it's like a constitution. So a lot was built based on the fundamental thing. In fact, that's what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita also. Guna karma vibhajayoho. Based on your original qualities and your karmas, the dharmas were actually clarified. So that is the essence of it. So this becomes a very, very fundamental thread upon which a lot of things will fall in place. So dharma, adharma, these were the classifications that clarification, you know, which was required by Arjuna was given by Krishna when he started the Gita. So is this my Swadharma? Is it not my Swadharma? How can I kill somebody and still rule? You know, these were the questions which Arjuna asked. And Krishna gave him clarity of what is actual Dharma is in Bhagavad Gita. All right. So, Sushi Bhagini is not there. Otherwise, she'll be like, what are you doing now? But I feel these are kind of, very important things for us to understand to go forward, right? Any questions? Is this fine?
In this
Loving the discussion.
duels, no? Why is it Prakritihi and Purushaha? Everything else seems related. Ratri, Diva, Swarga, Naraka, Pushpa, Papam, Punyam and all. What is the Prakritihi, Purushaha? Prakriti is nature, no?
Correct.
And
So,
Purushaha is human being.
yeah. So the Purusha during Pralaya, everything comes out with Purusha. After that, before anything happens, it becomes two things. The entire cosmic manifestation and the unmanifested form. So Purusha originally will be in the unmanifested form, and then Prakriti becomes the manifested form of it. So it becomes a dual. After that, it's Prakriti Purusha, and the Prakriti is what further gives us all what we see as the manifested form. And finally, the Prakriti will merge back to the Purusha. So now whatever we see are the Dvandva, the two things, which is the Prakriti and Purusha. That's again
And
a very, very fundamental
Purusha
thing
will
on which
merge
we
into
will.
Prakriti.
Hmm?
Purusha will merge into Prakriti.
No. Prakriti
No.
will merge into the Purusha. Prakriti, Purusha. In fact, it's always two. It will never become one as
Because
such.
now in usage, I haven't seen anywhere where this is the rest and all. Dharma, Swarga, Naraka, Jnanam, Anyanam.
No.
Papam, Punyam, Sukham, Dukham is always.
If you read any of the creation related things, if you read any of the granthas, every Purana compulsorily have to speak about creation. It's one of the 5 rules of Purana Lakshanam. So if you look at any of those parts, Prakriti Purusha will become like, in fact, in Saundarya Lahari, Shiva Shaktya Yukto Yati Bhavati Satya Prabhavitum is there, no? So there Shiva and Shakti is used in the place of Prakriti and Purusha. So Purusha is Shiva equivalent, Prakriti is Shakti equivalent. So they both, become together in order to have the cosmic dance.
So here Prakriti is an abstract form, is it?
Yes. Depends on the Bhashya you take. If you take Shankara Bhashya, it will be in abstract form. If you take Madhva Bhashya or Ramanuja Bhashya, it will be in the physical form. So it depends on the philosophy that we take up. That is where the Acharya's interpretations becomes very, very different. So it is usually, you can understand it like the male and the female coming together to expand the universe. That's a simple way of understanding it. Therefore, it is a dual. So the Prakriti is usually the female energy. The Purusha is the male energy. Does that answer you, Rajiji Pagni? So that's the way we understand. Okay. So Prakriti Purushaha, Jnanam Ajnanam. So Jnanam Ajnanam is like, lighting and darkness. We usually equate it to brightness and darkness, the Jnana and Ajnana. So it's knowledge and ignorance. Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya. So these kind of concepts we usually understand. So that is why we have a separate category itself for the dual. Ekavachanam, Dvivachanam, Bahuvachanam iti Samskriti Uchita. So they've just given some examples of famous trios here. Lokatrayam, Swarga, Marthya, Patalaha. So this can be understood either as 3 worlds, as it is mentioned here, where our Loka is taken. Anything above us is grouped into 1. Anything below us is grouped into 1. So ours becomes the center and we start looking at it from our perspective. Therefore, we are saying Swarga does not really mean that pure Loka here. It means all the 6 Lokas above us. Anyone who's heard the Gayatri mantra and familiar with it will know, right? There we start reciting by saying Buhu, Buvaha, Suvaha, Mahaha, Burbuva, Suvaha. That's actually Buhu, Buvaha, Suvaha, Mahaha. All these are the different lokas on top of us. Tapaha, Satya. Satya Loka is Brahma's Loka. So all these are lokas above us. And when we speak of lokas below us, right? We have here Patala is mentioned. That's an example of the lokas below us. So Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Rasatala, Mahatala,
So
Patala. all
totally,
these-
there are how many lokas? I thought this
14.
Lokatrayam means there are only 3 lokas.
Ada, when you group everything above us as one, everything below us as another, it will result in 3 lokas.
3 lokas.
If you
But
further classify
totally
it, we
bifurcated,
have
it's
14 lokas, 14 lokas, including ours. So ours is
Martya Loka, is it?
Martya Loka. Above us we have 6, below us we have 7.
Martya Loka.
Okay, so okay, let me just get going with this. If I go into these details, each of this is like one session itself. So Prasthanatraya, the 3 fundamental things which we have to understand, it's called as the Prasthanatraya, which is the Upanishads, the Brahma Sutras, and the Bhagavad Gita. So Upanishads are actually the Vedantas, the philosophical parts of the Vedas is the Upanishads. Brahma Sutras are the essence of the Upanishads, compiled in a cryptic form by Vedavyasa Maharishi. So he's given all these in the form of sutras. So the Upanishads in his sutra form is actually the Brahma Sutras. And if we have to accept anyone as an acharya, the lineage, the paramparic acharya, they should have given a bhashya to Brahma Sutras. That's how we say whether they are genuine acharyas or not. If a person is capable of understanding and explaining the Brahma Sutra bhashyas in no uncertain terms, they are acharyas. So that is why we usually classify it as the Matatraya acharyas. Whenever we want any clarification on philosophy, we look forward to any of the Matatraya acharyas. Adi Shankara Bhagavatpada, Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya. So they have written elaborate explanations of Brahma Sutras, which is supposed to be a very, very complicated text of Vedavyasa Maharishi. So I actually tried to understand one sutra and write an explanation on it. And then I realized, okay, what kind of an intense work it should have been to understand the 545 sutras in that. It was like an amazing experience. And understanding it from the different acharyas' perspective was like a wow exercise, Such a small sutra, possibly 10 alphabets, such elaborate meanings. It can go on, and you take days to get to understand even one sutra. So it's a very, very beautiful experience.
What does the word prasthana mean? Prasthana trayam. Prasthana?
You can understand it as the fundamental truths.
Or the establishment, is it?
Yeah. It's like the basic, the fundamental established truths. Sthana is the location. Like Prasthana is like the adipadayinu purinjukonga.
Foundation.
Yeah. Bhagavad Gita, of course, all of us know.
Is
About
it
Bhagavad
kind
Gita.
of living? How to live Prasthana? Is like that?
It's more like what do you need for your living? It can even be the purpose of our living. In your life, learn these 3, that kind of a thing.
It should be purpose of our living. Prasthan is to go.
Yeah, exactly. So this you have to know in your life, kind of thing.
That is not prasthana, that is parasthana.
No, Prasthan is to go forward
To different ways.
Okay, actually, in certain contexts, right, what happens is like the literal meaning and the bhava meaning will be 2 different things.
Correct.
So if we take the literal word by word meaning, it will give you a different feel. But the message behind that, is what we usually focus on. So the bhavatmaka meaning is what we should focus on. So that is like, understand these 3 things in your life. So, okay, I'm going to go faster. Triveni, we know about the 3 rivers, Ganga, Yamuna, and Saraswati. Trivarga, Purushartha. Yeah, that we know. Dharma, Artha, Kama. These are the 3 fundamental things that we have. Actually, earlier on, during the, I'm asking myself on, one side of my brain is saying, just go on. The other side is like, no, you can't skip this. So there is one internal thing going on inside me. Okay, anyway. So during the Krita Yuga, the Satya Yuga, what was happening is they had only 3 Purusharthas. They had only Dharma, Artha, Kama. Because when they lived their life the way they were living, moksha was like, they knew how to end this cycle of births and deaths by all their practices itself. So that was not a big thing for them. But as the time passed, people did not even realize that the purpose of life was to ensure that we are not born again. What is the purpose of life? We don't even know what is the purpose of life, right? So Shastras very clearly say that we've been having repeated cycles of births and deaths and births and deaths, that we have to come out of this cycle. Adi Shankaracharya in his Bhajagovindam says, right? Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani, jatare shayanam. So we are born again, we die again, and this cycle continues, and we are just in the mother's womb again, even without realizing. The Vedas say that we can count the number of sand particles in the ocean. The number of times we are born and we die, we can't count. And it's supposed to be a very, very difficult experience. We know the delivery pain the mother undergoes, but they say that the child undergoes even more pain than the mother. But we don't remember it. We forget it as soon as we are born, right? So to get rid of this cycle of births and deaths is the purpose of this birth itself. That's what our Shastras say. We forget that when we are born here, we do everything else except, finding a solution for getting rid of the cycles. So that moksha has now become the 4th Purushartha. So when you speak about the Trivarga Purushartha, Dharma, Artha and Kama, this is the rule that was there as far as the Krita Yuga was concerned. Today we call it as the Chaturveda Purushartha, where Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha becomes the ultimate, most important Purushartha. Right? Okay. Doshatrayam, Kapavada Pitta, that is the Ayurvedic thing all of us know. Okay. The Tripitakani, I will deal with it at a later time. Sutra Pitakam, Vinaya Pitakam, and Abhidharma Pitakam.
What is the meaning of Pitakam? That alone you say. What is Pitakam?
I'll go into that. If I go, then I'll get going. So, Tribhutayaha, Trimurtayaha is Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. We know that. Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara. Ratnatrayam, Samyak Jnanam, Samyak. This also I will deal with it. These two I will deal with it later. Shakti Trayam is Jnana Shakti, Ichcha Shakti, Kriya Shakti. So Shakti Trayam is like, required for us to complete any activity, in the sense that for any action to be complete, we first have to think about it. We have to have a desire to do it. The wanting to do something is Ichcha Shakti. Jnana Shakti is the knowledge in order to accomplish it. Kriya Shakti is taking action. So you have a desire to do it, and then you have the knowledge to do it, finally getting into action. These 3 things will together give us the Shakti, the power to accomplish any task. In fact, these 3 are the rupas of Shakti that we've given for all the 3 different Shaktis, right? Of course, Raji knows a lot about this. Her concept of finance itself is the Shakti. So this is the Ichcha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti concept. Even that we can go elaborately. In fact, I've given some talks on that also earlier for Raji herself. So that is the concept of Shakti. All right. So these are some of the famous trios. And then I think just one more sloka for us to complete the aspects in the first chapter. Whenever we travel outside and come back, or any impurity happens, we are asked to consume what we call as the Panchagavyam. The cows are supposed to be a very, very sacred thing in Sanatana Dharma. And they will give you a combination of 5 different things from the cow. ghee and all the products of cows are actually combined together, and a little bit of that should be consumed in order to purify ourselves. And a sloka is mentioned when the Panchagavyam is taken. In fact, without taking it, if we go abroad and come back, people don't even accept us to do our religious rituals. That's been the traditional practice. So that sloka is mentioned here for us to know. Yat tvagastigatam papam. One of you can recite after me. Yat tvagas. Yes, yeah, go ahead. Yat tvagastigatam papam.
Yat tvagastigatam papam.
Yat tvagastigatam papam.
Yat tvagastigatam papam.
Dehe tishtati mamake.
Dehe tishtati mamake.
Dehe tishtati mamake.
Dehe tishtati mamake.
Prashanam panchagavyasya.
Prashanam panchagavyasya.
Prashanam panchagavyasya.
Prashanam panchagavyasya.
Dahatyagnivedhanam. Dahatyagnivedhanam.
Dahatyagnivedyanam.
Dahatyagnivedhanam.
Dahatyagnivedyanam.
Tatra in punaha nasti bagini. Dahatyagnivedhanam.
Dahatyagnivedyanam.
Rivendanam.
Rivendanam.
Dahatyagnivedhanam.
Dahatyagnivedyanam.
Uttamam. Yatyadvagni. Anybody else who wants to recite? I'll recite the full line now.
Yes, I can. Can I?
Okay, please go ahead. Yatvagastigatam papam. Dehe tish. Eka nimisham. Dehe tishtati mamake.
Yatvagasthati gatam papam dehe tishtati mamake.
Yatvagastigatam papam. Dehe tishtati mamake.
Yatvagasthigatam papam dehe tishtati mamake.
Prashanam panchagavyasya. Jagagnirivendhanam.
Rashanam panchagavyasya dehatyagniривendhanam.
Dahatyagniривendhanam.
Dahatyagniривendhanam.
Raji, I'll recite the whole thing. Can you repeat after me? Yatvagastigatam papam. Dehe tishtati mamake. Prashanam panchagavyasya. Dahatyagniривendhanam.
Yatvagastigatam papam dehe tishtati mamake. Prashanam panchagavyasya dahatyagniривendhanam.
Uttama. Okay, so shall we move on to a little bit of understanding the slokas? Yeah. Any questions prior to that?
That shloka's meaning, Pravina, what we just said.
It is supposed to, whenever we travel or anything, I said, right, they repeat the sloka. So it is supposed to remove all the negatives in us. Even in Ayurveda, they say that, it can cleanse us. So in this sloka, the actual meaning that they have mentioned is like, whatever is the sin accumulated in your bones and your skin can be cleared. So it's something like a cleansing that is done because of the Panchagavya. Just like the fire burning fuel, these can cleanse our different things. Okay. So whenever we look at a sloka, we learned that there are 4 things that we have to understand. First, we will look at the sloka, and we learned about the sandhi today. So we will split up the words so that we understand the actual word that we are working on. So once we do the padacheda, splitting of the words, we will be able to identify little more details about it. We can understand, okay, what is this word actually? Is it, pullinga or strilinga? Which vibhakti is it? Which vachanam it is? Which linga it is? To an extent we can understand. Sometimes we might be a little confused at that stage. Oh, is this tritiya or is it saptami? Is it this ending or that ending? Those kind of thoughts will definitely be there initially. So we can put 1 or 2 options. Basically, you can work with the rule of elimination. So, okay, this is not there, that is not there. So over a period, once we get more and more clarity, you will be able to identify exactly where we have to go to. All right. So once we identify it, then we will go on to grouping or classifying it based on asking the right questions. So we can group it, categorize it, find out what is the Visheshana Visheshyam, find out what are the verbs, find out how these words form an order. So finally, we will arrange it in an order, which is called as the Anvaya Rachana. Once we do the Anvaya, the meaning will be a little more clear. Then we can explain what is the Tatparya, what is the essence of the sloka. Okay. Now, Lalita Bhagini was asking me, why are we, doing this sequencing and order? And Neena Bhagini was asking me, why are we asking these questions? So I would like to hear from you all. What is the purpose of, because in Sanskritam, we know that Balakaha Vidyalayam Gacchati. Gacchati Vidyalayam Balakaha. Balakaha Vidyalayam Gacchati. Vidyalayam Gacchati Balaka. Anything you do, we still understand the meaning, right? I mean, there is no, change in grammar. It is not a mistake, even if we organize the sentence differently. So what is the purpose of Anvaya? Why do you think we are doing Anvaya?
Breaking a sentence and then getting the meaning of it.
Yes, you're breaking it, but why are you resequencing it? Why are you sequencing it in the prose order?
Because these are in a very condensed form. So when we break, we get the wider meaning of it.
No, the question is, when we break the sandhi, that becomes the padachedaha. Then she is saying, why are we rearranging the words? That is a sequence. Why are we arranging it in prose order? Prose order. What is the purpose?
In the right form, to put it in the right form so that it's more comprehensive.
Put it in an understandable form.
Yeah,
with the subject, object, Kriyapadam in the end.
Correct, in the right order.
Okay.
So we could get the Tatparyam.
Tatparyam comes later.
So
We may,
No, but unless we put it in the right order.
To understand the hidden meaning.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you don't put it in the
That's
right
the
order,
Tatparya.
you don't know the meaning.
No,
Okay.
is it because for vibhaktis? I mean, just for us to know that.
Yes, yes. Perfect. So what actually happens here is, in Sanskritam, irrespective of the sequence that we put, we can still manage to understand. For quicker understanding, for things to be really clear for us, the sequence helps us to understand. So it is not that, this is the only right way in Sanskritam. Sanskritam accommodates it because of vibhakti. As Neena ji said, vibhaktis give us the clarity to, or the flexibility to organize it the way we want. But because we use a lot of metrics in poetry, especially, what happens is the Kriyapada, which is relevant, will be in some other place compared to its relevant adjectives. So what happens is, for us to understand it in an easier way, in a quicker sense, if we rearrange it, it becomes easy. And the typical krama usually will be that the verb comes at the end. The karta, will be in the beginning. The karma will be in the middle. So when we sort it out like this, it becomes faster, easier for us to understand, right? So that is the purpose of Anvaya Rachana. All right. So let us just go into some details of how we can go about working on it. And remember, this is a long drawn exercise. Okay, it's not like you do one Anvaya and you're there. No. In fact, many times you will feel confused, and confusion is good because that's what will give us clarity. So enjoy the confusion. All right. So let's work on this. Let me go into this. Okay. So let's take this beautiful sloka, the Valmiki sloka on Bhagavan Valmiki. Kujantam Rama Rameti Maduram Maduraksharam Aruhya Kavita Shakam Vande Valmiki Kokilam. Kujantam Rama Rameti Maduram Maduraksharam Aruhya Kavita Shakam Vande Valmiki Kokilam. Wonderful. Now, can one of you volunteer to do the Pada Vibhagaha here? How will you break it down? Pada Vibhagaha, Pada Chedaha.
Kujantam is Kuja plus Anta.
Okay.
Rama,
Kujantam. Okay. Kujantam is actually, you don't split it, it's Kujantam only. It is a new Shabda, which you may not be familiar. It is actually Kujat. It will be a Takaranta Shabda. You're not familiar, that's okay. So let's leave it as Kujantam. Go into Rama Rameti.
Rama plus Iti.
Exactly. Rama Iti. Perfect. Then
Maduram, Madura plus Aksharam.
Maduram plus Aksharam, Maduraksharam.
what about the first Maduram?
Just Maduram.
Maduram only.
That is only Maduram. Then Maduraksharam is what?
Madura plus Aksharam.
Aksharam, which is Madhur.
Okay. So that is actually a Sandhi which has happened there. So what you have to do is, now you said Madura plus Akshara, right? Now what will Madura be?
Maduram plus Aksharam. Maduraksharam.
So you have to start thinking whether when you split, will it result in one of the Shabda Rupas? You know, if it will not end in one of the Shabda Rupas, you will not split there.
Okay.
You get what I mean? Only if when you split it, if it is going to, for example, Ramasya, is there. Ramam, is there. Ramena, is there. So is there some Rupa like that which will come if you split it? If that kind of Rupa will not come, only the Moola Rupa is going to come, then you will not even split it.
Okay.
So typically this will be a Madura Shabda, right? Therefore, there is no need to split it here. It will be Maduraksharam. It is a combined word only.
Oh.
Because it's combined already. You can't split it at that point because that's not resulting in an independent anything belonging to the 8 cross 3 matrix. Okay. Then go to the next line. Aruhya. What is Aruhya? You're familiar with Aruhya.
Aruhya, climbing.
Climbing. So we have learned words like Gachati, Agachit, Agatya, Upavishya.
Upavishya.
Yep, it is a yep pratyaya.
Excellent, Renu Bhagini. So it is a pratyaya. So because you're using a in front of it, so it is a lyap pratyaya, because anytime you have a pratyaya associated, you have a lyap there. Wonderful. So Aruhya. Then
Kavita Shakam.
Kavita Shakam. What is that?
Kavita branches.
Are the branches of poetry.
The branches of poetry. So Kavita Shakan, is there any splitting that will happen there?
Kavita Shakam, or it will be like Maduraksharam.
Exactly, it will be like Maduraksharam. So it has now become one word. If you split, you will not get any specific rupa with respect to the vibhaktis. Therefore, you will not split it. Okay.
Vande Valmiki Kokilam.
Valmiki Kokilam. That is also again one word only. Do you understand this now? Pada Vibhagaha?
So here only Rama, Rameti only Padavibhaga is there.
Correct. Very good. Okay. Now let us see. Is everybody clear with Padavibhaga? Because that is the main topic of this chapter. If you know Padavibhaga, this chapter is over. Now we are just going a little advance. Okay. Now, what is the Kriyapadam here?
Kujantam and
No, one day is the Kriyapadam.
One day, action.
One day is the Kriyapadam. One day means what does it imply when you say one day?
Aham.
Aham Vande.
Aham Vande. Aham Vande. Very nice. So Aham Vande is clear now. So one day is the Kriyapadam. When you know it is one day, automatically Aham is there, Antargata. So therefore it is Aham Vande. It is implied. Yes. Now, now you can start thinking about what are the specific things that you can see here. Let us go into every word that we are seeing here. So Aham Vande.
Aham Kaha Vande.
No. 1 minute. Even before you go into that. So you are seeing Kujantam Rama iti Maduram Maduraksharam. Vande we know is the Kriyapadam, which we've now kept separately. Now let us go into these specific things, understand a little more about every word. Now Kujantam, I said it's the Takaranta Pullingaha, right? Now, how will you understand that? Yaha patati patantam. Yaha patati tam patantam iti vadamaha. Yaha likati saha likantam iti vadamaha. Yaha kujati saha kujantam. Ataha kujantam.
What is patantam likan?
Who writes that person? So you will use it. It's called as Shatra. It's like a pratyaya only. So kujantam. Okay. So the person
can you give an example for patati or patati? How do you use it in a sentence?
Tam patantam balakam pashyami.
Padichindirukra payyana?
Ama.
Okay, the one who is reading.
Patantam balakam. We will, that's a topic, we will learn that topic. But as of now, we can just understand that Kujat Shabdaha, it is Takarantaha Pullingaha Dvitiya Vibhakti Ekavachana Rupam. Okay. Because in parichaya, from what I could see, we are learning only the Swara Shabdas, not the Vyanjana Shabdas. So Swarakshara, whatever ends, only that we are learning. So Takaranta and all I think is kept for a later time. So let's not worry much about it. So Takarantaha Pullingaha Kujat Shabdaha Dvitiya Vibhakti Ekavachana Rupam. Alright. Then let us see what is Rama. What is Rama?
Rama Aksharam.
No.
What is the Vibhakti? Vibhakti Vachanam.
Prathama
Vibhakti.
Tell me Rama Shabda. Tell me Rama Shabda. Is it Prathama Vibhakti?
Hey Rama. Sambodhanam.
Rama.
It is Sambodhana. Hey Rama.
Hey
Rama. Rama is the Pratipadikam. It is not Prathama. Rama is Prathama.
Yeah.
Okay. So hey Rama. So it is Ahvanam. It is like calling Rama. So Rama iti. So he is calling Rama iti. So it is Sambodhana Prathama. Maduram. What is Maduram?
Sweet.
No. What is the grammar part of Maduram?
Is it the Visheshanam?
Yeah.
Okay.
Madhura Aksharam. So Akshara thoda adjective.
Don't go into Madhura Aksharam. I'm asking about Maduram. What is
Maduram is
Maduram?
adjective. Visheshanam.
Vishesh.
Okay. Even before whether you decide whether it is a Vishesham or Visheshyam, whatever it is, let us understand what Maduram could mean. When you look at the word Maduram, can it be a Shabda? Can it be a Avyaya? Can it be anything else like that?
Can be a shabda only.
Okay, what kind of shabda will it be?
Dvitiya vibhakti sha.
It can be akaranta napumsakalingaha dvitiya vibhakti ekavachana roopam. That is one possibility. Okay. The other possibility is Maduram can also be an avyayam. There are two possibilities for Maduram. Can also be an avyayam. Okay, there are many usages in Sanskritam where Maduram is used as a avyayam. So put both of that. As of now, we are not sure, so just bracket it. We are understanding how to work on these. Okay, so just put it in the thing and keep it there. Okay. So Maduraksharam.
Aksharam, which are
Madhur Aksharam.
So this is Visheshanam Visheshyam. Aksharam is the Namapadam and
Maduraksharam is one word. You will treat it the same way. Akarantaha, Napumsakalingaha, Maduraksha Sabdaha. So it will be Dvitiya Vibhakti Ekavachana Rupa. Maduraksharam. It is one word now. Remember, we said we can't split it. We've already done with the splitting. So now you will not go into splitting again. We've already decided that it's one word. So it is Maduraksharam. Okay. Now let's go to Aruhya. Aruhya means Arohanam Kritva. So it's Tva because you have a Pratyaya. It is a Lyap Pratyaya. Renu Bhagini told it correctly. So A is the Upasarga in this. Okay. So this can be treated like a Kriyapadam also, you know, like it is an Avyayam, but you will treat it like a Kriyapadam for practical reasons. Okay. So you can bracket it as Avyayam. Aruhya. Lyabantam Avyayam. Okay. Rama iti. Iti is also an Avyayam. Maduram, Maduraksharam, Aruhya. Kavita Shakam. This is interesting. Kavita Shakam. What is that?
Shakam Aruhya.
Kavita Shakam. So what is the Vibhakti Vachana Kavita Shaka?
Dvitiya Vibhakti Akaranta Strilingaha.
Pandita Hapa. Akaranta Strilinga, Dvitiya Vibhakti.
Kavita Shaka Shabdaha or Shaka Shabda?
Kavita Shaka.
Kavita Shaka.
Splitting is over. Kavita Shaka. Okay.
Ekavachana.
Dvitiya Vibhakti, Ekavachana Rupam. Kavita Shakam. One day we've already decided that is the verb that we have. Valmiki Kokilam. What is Valmiki Kokilam?
Same.
Same as what?
Prathama Vibhakti
As
Napunsakalingam.
Prathama Vibhakti, yeah.
Dvitiya Vibhakti, same as that Kavita Shakam. Ikaranta Strilinga.
Oh, Aham Valmiki Kokilam Vande. Okay. So it is Dvitiya Vibhakti.
Eppadi Ikaranta?
Ikaranta illa, Napunsakalingam.
Sudha Bhagini said something. Sudha Bhagini, what did you say again?
Okay. Sorry, it's Napunsakalingam, sorry.
Akaranta Napunsakalingam.
Dvitiya Vibhakti.
Yeah.
Akarantaha Napumsakalingaha Dvitiya Vibhakti Ekavachana Rupam Valmiki Kokilam. Clear? Okay. So Valmiki Kokilam. Any other word which is left out? No. I think we've covered almost everything. Okay. So now you have identified everything. This at this point of time, we do what is called as the Vargikaranam. What you mean by Vargikaranam is grouping similar things together. So we have already learned 3 things should be looked at when you're grouping it, right? Yam Vibhakti, Vachanam, Lingam. Is that right? For Visheshana Vishesham, what was the rule that you all learned?
The Visheshanam will take the case, number and gender of the Visheshanam.
Samskritatla sollungappa, dabba adichingala and what was the statement that you all learned?
Ada innum dabba adikila. Anusrityaha. Lingam, Vachanam,
அது யத் யத்னு ஒண்ணு வரும்.
விபக்தி அனுஸ்ருத்யः விசேஷண விசேஷ்ய
विशेषण विशेष्यं विभक्ति वचनं लिङ्गम्
वचनं
एतद्
लिङ्गम्।
विषयत्रयमपि समानं भवति इति वयं पठितवन्तः खलु. अतः here you will now try to group it based on that. So first let us in your notebooks just have a column lingam vibhakti vachanam. These are the three things. So we will see what are the things which come under a similar grouping. All right. So let's take kujantam. For kujyantam, what is the lingam, vibhakti and vachanam? Pullingaha, dvitiya, ekavachanam. It doesn't matter whether it is akaranta, ikaranta, that doesn't matter. It's just pullinga, dvitiya, vibhakti, ekavachana roop. Correct? Now, what else belongs to that category?
Kokilam.
Valmiki kokilam is one word. Yes, Valmiki kokilam is pullinga.
Madhurakshara.
Dvitiya ekavachanam. So group that also there.
Madhuram, Madhuraksham, Madhuraksharam.
No, Madhuraksharam.
Madhuraksharam.
Madhuraksharam, Valmiki kokilam, all that will come there.
Kavita Shaka.
Kavita Shaka Srilingam.
Oh, okay, okay.
So you should look for all the three
Akara.
being the same. Here Pullingam, Dvitiya, Ekavachanam. All those you are grouping together. Okay. Anything else for this? Okay. Then, what are the avyayas that we have? Let's group the avyayas.
Iti.
Iti is an avyayam, yes. Aruhya is an avyayam.
Maduram also said is an avyayam.
Maduram is an avyayam, yes. Okay.
That's all.
Okay. Then, Rama Rama is Sambodha Pratama, so that's a separate category. Anything we've left out?
Kavita Shakha is Akarant is Striling.
Yes, Akaranta Strilingam. So that's a separate category by itself. That's it. Okay. Now we know what all belongs to Dvitiya Vibhakti, what belongs to Sambodhana Pratama, what belongs to everything is now clear in front of our eyes. Now is a good time to start asking questions. Are you all clear about this Vargikaranam? How you grouping it? You will group it based on the Vibhakti, Vachana and Linga. Okay. So why are we now starting asking questions? So that we get how we should sequence it. So that we can put it in a logical way. When the sentence formation happens, we can put it in an appropriate way, questioning based on the Kriyapan. Okay. So what kind of questioning we will do? First, we will try to exhaust the Saptakakara based on the Vibhakti that we have. All of you remember the Kim Shabdam, Kaha Shabdaha, all that, right? Kaha Kauke, Kam Kaukan, Kena Kabyam Kaihi, Kasmai Kabyam Kibhi. That will be the kind of questions that you will ask. So the Saptakakara is Kim Kutra Katikada, Kutaha Katam Kimartam. All right. So when we say Kim, Kim will also include Kaha, all the three categories. In all the three lingas are included under the word Kim. Kim is just like a word for us to remember to expand on it. So when we say Kim, it will include Kaha Kauke. We will ask the right question depending on the Vachana and Linga that we've got here. Okay. Similarly, Ka Ke Kaha. That is also included. Kim Ke Kani. So 9 questions are included in the word Kim. You all understand? You all are with me?
Yes.
Similarly, Kasya means Kasyaha also. Kasya Kayoho Kesham. So Bahuvachana Prayoga means we'll ask Kesham as your question. So we should remember these rules. Spashtamasti? Ast, Samik. So let's go on to questioning now. Now, vande. Aham vande. Aham kam vande.
Aham Valmiki Kokilam Vande.
Now, why did I ask kam?
Come
Because Dvitiya Vibhakti.
Vibhakti.
One day is there. That's why.
No, the Prashna form of Dvitiya Vibhakti.
Kokilam.
Come.
Prashna
Aha,
form of
kam.
Dvitiya. Exactly. Prashna form of Dvitiya Vibhakti. Therefore, we are asking kam vande. Aham kam vande.
Aham Valmiki Kokilam Vande.
Before you go on to okay, aham Valmiki Kokilam Vande. Okay, so Kidrisham Valmiki Kokilam.
Kidrisham means what?
Kidrisham is Visheshana
What kind?
Vishesham. I'm asking, qualify it. What kind of Valmiki Kokilam?
What
Maduram.
Maduraksharam Valmiki
Maduraksharam.
Kokilam. Because Maduraksharam Valmiki Kokilam. Because we all categorized all that in one category, right? So Maduraksharam Valmiki Kokilam. Uttamam. Punaha Kidrisham Valmiki Kokilam.
Kujantam Rama Rama.
Kujantam. No.
Arushya Kavita.
See, I feel Kidrisham should only come for Aruhya Kavita Shakam.
Yeah.
Maduram Maduraksharam is not for Valmiki Kokilam. Maduram Maduraksharam is for Rama Rama.
How are you saying that?
Valmiki Kokilam is Valmiki the cuckoo. He was sitting in the poetry of
No. Let's just look at this. You have grouped all the Dvitiya Vibhakti Ekavachana Rupam together. Okay. So how will you identify what is the Visheshya Visheshanam? It belongs to the same Vachanam, Vibhakti and Lingam. Then you will group it together. So what all have you grouped here? You have grouped Valmiki Kokilam, Maduraksharam, Kujyantam together. So these belong to that category. If it is belonging to some other category, then it has to match with that Vachanam, that Vibhakti. That's all.
Okay. So Kidrisham would be Maduraksharam Valmiki Kokilam, Kujantam Valmiki Kokilam. Both.
Only Maduram.
So here you will have Kidrisham Kujitam will be Valmiki Kokilam Kidrisham. Punaha Kidrisham Maduraksharam Kujyantam. So both are actually Visheshanams only. So you can have multiple. Maduraksharam and Kujantam. Both these are Visheshanam for Valmiki Kokilam. You can have multiple adjectives for the same thing. Okay. In fact, Maduram is more on Maduraksharam. Maduraksharam, Maduram Rama Rama iti ahvet. Astu. So,
I think that Maduram is for Kujantam. No, Sweeta, it is cooing. And Rama Rama is the Maduraksharam. Rama Rama itself is Maduraksharam.
Maduraksharam, Maduram, adu inga vandu blend aagudhu because Maduraksharam is Maduram. Maduram is an avyayam that you're using. So that Aksharam itself is Maduram, is also a way of looking at it. So Maduraksharam, Rama Rama iti. So now how will your sentence be? Illa punaha Valmiki Kokilam. We have one more Kavita Shakam. Aruhya Kavita Shakam. So Aruhya, here it is an avyayam, but because it is lyap, it is like, gatva, it is like a verb that we usually use, right? So though it is an avyayam, you can use it to connect two things. So here, Aruhya Kavita Shaka can be used as a Kavita Shakam Aruhya. So Aruhya can be associated to Kavita Shaka. So you should remember wherever we have the pratyayas, like the lyap, which is used, though we qualify it under the avyaya category, it can still be looked at as if it is a kriyapada. The treatment can be as if it is a kriyapada. All right. So what will our final avyaya here be? So Kavita Shakam Ahuya is one part of it, because Ahuya is treated as a Kriyapadam. Kavita Shakam Aruhya is separate. Then what happens? Rama Rama iti Maduraksharam Maduram Pujantam Valmikim Aham
Valmiki Kokilam.
Valmiki Kokilam Aham Vande. So here everything becomes very, very clear. So Rama Rama iti, because it is Sambodhana Pratama, you're using it. Rama Rama iti, everything else is like a Visheshyam, Vishesha Maduraksharam. Maduram is an Avyayam. Kujyantam, who is the Kujyantam? Valmiki Kokilam Aham Vande. Can one of you tell this with a tatparya in your own words?
In Sanskritam.
Saralataya vadatu paryaptam.
Valmiki Kokilam Kavita Shakham Aruhya Ram Ram iti Madhuraksharam Madhuram Kujantam Aham Vande Valmiki Maharishi Valmiki.
सम्यक् अतः इतोपि अस्माकं स्वभाषया अपि तात्पर्यं वक्तुं शक्नुमः अहं वाल्मीकि मुनिं नमामि वन्दे इत्युक्ते नमामि इति वयं तु जानीमः सः कीदृशः इति चिन्तयामः चेत् सः वृक्षम् आरुह्य राम राम इति कूजति तादृश वाल्मीकिं मधुराक्षरेण कूजति तादृश वाल्मीकिम् अहं नमामि. So you can try to break it into smaller 3 or 4 sentences in your own words using simpler words that can give you the tatparya that you've understood. Is this clear? So we will keep doing more of avyayas like this. Is this clear? I was planning to do 4 today. We did only 1. Anyway,
actually, bookla vandu in the Pujantam.
4 will take us 1 whole class, Guru.
Slow and steady.
Yeah. No problem. This is, I told you, this will go on till Shiksha. So we will take our time to understand.
I have to still again go on the whole YouTube to get into my head this thing.
Actually, the best way of doing it is choose a few slokas from Ramayana or Bhagavad Gita. Try to, do your Padavibhagaha, then identify the sequence. So if we start working, it will take at least like 20-30 slokas for us to get a feel of it. So enjoy the journey. That's all I can say. So if we take Ramayana or Bhagavad Gita, we at least feel, okay, we are learning that sloka by that time, so you feel contented about it. So it is a good thing. But are you all clear with what we explained today, how we go about with the journey? That is important. So we will continue with this in the next class also. As far as the first chapter is concerned, I think we have completed the first chapter today.
Pravina, I just had a small doubt in that first chapter, page number 13 இருக்குல்ல அதுல வந்து சில forms of verbs கொடுத்திருக்காங்க அது எல்லாமே நம்ம கவர் பண்ணல அது படிக்கணுமா இல்ல அது அப்புறம் பாத்துக்கலாமா
இல்ல they have just given you what all are there. We have covered 4 or 5 of this, that's all. We will be covering the
remaining. 2 we have covered. Patati, Patishyati only we have covered. The rest nothing we have covered. Patitavan and all we have
Patitavyam, Patitavati, all that we've covered.
Patitavyam and all where we have covered.
Patitva we've covered.
Patitum also we've covered.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. I agree.
Patitavan, Patitavati, patitum, patitva, all that we've covered.
Correct. All that we have covered. The rest, what we have not covered, we will deal it in
We will be
some
covering. We'll be
So
covering.
here they're just given the list. That's
List
all.
of things.
Yeah. Basically, it's all active voice, passive voice.
Yes. Yes. So we'll be doing quite a few things. All right. So any questions before we wrap for the day?
Sorry.
Whatever we did today, it's clear, no?
Yeah.
So good. So we will conclude for the day. Kayena vacha manasendriyaiva buddhyatmana va prakriti svabhavat karomi yatyat sakalam parasmai narayanaayeti samarpayami achyutaya namaha anantaya namaha govindaya namaha achyutaya namaha anantaya namaha govindaya namaha achyutaya namaha anantaya namaha govindaya namaha. Sarvam Sri Krishnarpanamastu.